back to another episode of It's All Been Tracked Before. This time, the neutral zone. Yeah, it's not the friend zone. It's a lot different. The neutral zone here on It's All Been Tracked Before. We're finishing out the season here. Don't let us go away. Okay, become a supporter if you're not already. Patreon.com/IBD. And you can get our bonus episodes. We'll be recording a little break here. And you know what? Join our Facebook page. And why don't you shout at us? You know, comment on one of our many posts, or just go to our Facebook page and tell us, hey, here's a great bonus episode idea. Maybe we'll record it. We probably will if it makes sense. Hey, we did a recording of Freaky Friday. We talked about Freaky Friday because it was like Turnaround Intruder from TOS. That's the kind of stuff we get into on It's All Been Tracked Before. You know that. And if you don't, you're about to learn it once again, as this is the Neutral Zone on It's All Been Tracked Before. And we're off and running.
Yay, we're recording. Oh, Keith's doing the blurred background thing. That's cool. I saw that was an option. Anyway, I think we're going to post this video.
Has to take credit for that.
So that's why we're doing the video, and we can see Keith in his unshaven face.
See, this
Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Tracked Before.
Talk about putting on Patreon.
Our skeleton crew is here.
This is Steven.
Keith.
Jimmy Jerome. And we sound different tonight, gentlemen. Why do we sound different?
We're not in the same room.
Yes, we are all isolated, quarantined. None of us are sick, as far as I know. But we are practicing social distancing. So, we're here to talk about the season finale, The Neutral Zone, in which the Enterprise gets three people out of time and defreezes them, and then they also meet some Romulans for some reason.
First impressions, a lot going on in this episode. We'll dive deeper into this, but was it necessary to have two big storylines in a season finale?
I don't think they had two big storylines. I think this episode was about the people out of time, and the Romulans were attacked on a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I think that's a fair thing. And maybe it's my Romulan bias that I'm more interested in what they're up to. Actually, I ended up liking the time traveler, not time traveler, the frozen people storyline more than I thought I would. But I wish the episode had, and I'm going to just jump to it, my old episode, I wish it had been one or the other. Either the Romulans are back or these people that have been quote unquote frozen, which I'll get into later as well, frozen in the one of the others. So that's my first impression.
My alternate episode, before I give first impression, I'm going to jump on the bandwagon, is that this was a cliffhanger two-parter where the frozen people got him in trouble with the Romulans, and then we come back next year, and the episode's mainly about the Romulans, but with tying up the frozen people's story, and they took time to do both.
I thought that was going to happen at one point. I thought it might be a cliffhanger, because we're finally getting into that era. We're into that era, but
Not
it
yet.
didn't happen.
Not yet. We got 2 more seasons before we get a cliffhanger. So, Keith, what were your first impressions?
Something along the same lines, really. It's just, it's really hard to talk like this with the noise canceling on. Hold on a second.
The one Star Wars part of this podcast will be I am drinking out of a Star Wars glass.
We do have to continue to drink alcohol, otherwise the coronavirus wins. I'm going with the White Russian tonight. So.
Nice. It's a nice touch.
My first impression was I actually really liked this episode.
I'm still off the sauce for the time being.
Kind of wish they'd left the Romulans out of it. Not because I am against the Romulan parts of the episode. It just felt stuck on.
Yeah, and I think the more you say it, the more I think yeah, I started with I don't care about these people. And then as it went along, as I said to Colleen, they all kind of grew on me. I mean, the one guy is my most annoying of the episode, which we'll get to.
Obviously.
But yeah. But I thought the other two were actually became pretty engaging storylines. And I thought they all started out as groaners, and then I thought they really developed those storylines well, whereas the Romulans, that's exactly right. That's the way I feel about the ending of the show and the entire thing. It's like they start with a Balance of Terror. Essentially, it's the exact beginning of Balance of Terror. One of my favorite episodes, a great episode, and one of the reasons I'm always interested in Romulans. And then they go to this other thing. I'm like, why don't we stay on the Romulans? And then it ends up just being, hey, we're back. See you soon. Bye.
Yeah, I feel like this episode was very poorly titled because it messed with your expectations.
Mm-hmm. I think it's fair to say. Something Colleen laughed at right away was that Netflix lists this as TV-14 for Sex and Fear. She thought that was hilarious. And I hadn't noticed that before, but as I've mentioned to you guys, I've been rewatching TOS, and I noticed that yesterday when I was watching When No Man Has Gone Before, that it was TV-14 for Sex and Fear. Oh, no, actually, it was Naked Time. I'm like, all right. I think they were just talking about Sulu taking his shirt off for the sex part.
Yeah, there was no sex in this episode. I get the fear part.
Okay.
At the very beginning, they go on that little spaceship. I said it. I'm bad with the us. And Data and Worf are looking around, and I just wanted one of them to go, look, Botany Bay, and then have to flee.
Exactly. Yeah, and, we didn't get the same pajamas as we had in the Botany Bay. But, yeah, Colleen, when they opened the one and they wiped the fog away or the mist or whatever on the window, Colleen and I looked at each other like, oh, well, there's the fear. And then we waited for the sex, which I'm going to guess was just Deanna Troi. Or Crusher, for that matter. She's great.
It was Deanna's outfit.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. I thought overall, though, the open was pretty good.
Yeah. I did think all the frozen bodies in the chambers must have really good acoustics based on that foam padding that was behind them.
Yeah.
I think the singer must have requested that. The 3 guest characters felt very TOS guest character to me.
Yes, very.
Yep.
And I thought, like I said, the most annoying guy, we talk about this guy on this podcast all the time, but I feel like he's patterned on someone who's unfortunately still in our lives every day now. And he wasn't as big a part then, but the Ralph guy is pretty much a stand-in for the guy who's our favorite, who we've talked about a lot on this podcast. But I thought
the guy who's guiding us so well through the current crisis.
That's him. Yeah.
Yeah.
And at first the Southern guy kind of made me cringe. Like they played the Dukes of Hazzard music when he got the martini out of the replicator. But I thought his character got more interesting because the way he was taking, waking up 400 years later, pretty nonchalant, whereas the other guy was just like, he's no con, and he instantly was like, well, I need to get back to my money or whatever, which it seems like if he was a smart guy, but maybe based on who I said I think he's based on, it would make sense he'd wake up and be an idiot. Claire, I thought her storyline ended up being the most interesting for a number of reasons. But I thought that was a really good, I thought hers was really interesting, and I was surprised how taken in I was with that one.
Let's go through the 3 guest stars, since you're talking about them. Claire was played by Gracie Harrison, who's best known for this role. Second best known for The Powers of Matthew Starr.
Yeah.
And then Killing Time with Kiefer Sutherland. She's got 24 credits. Doesn't seem like she really had a big acting career.
She doesn't even have a Wikipedia entry. So.
Yeah, she has no picture on IMDb.
Yeah.
Then we have Peter Mark Richmond, who was playing the man you're talking about, the rich guy. I can't remember his name real quick. I'm trying to look it up. Very.
Maybe.
That sounds right. It's Ralph Offenhouse, yes.
Oh, Offenhouse.
And yeah, he's best known for Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, as well as Agent for Harm, Defenders of the Earth, and McCloud with Burt Reynolds.
I feel like he's been in a lot of TV stuff. I think
he's got 159 credits. He definitely looked familiar.
Yeah.
I feel like I've seen him around. Now, the third guy I thought was the most familiar, Leon Rippey, who played the singer. He has so many credits. He's best known for the movie Eight-Legged Freaks, the movie Stargate, and then the television show Deadwood. He doesn't have nearly as many credits as the rich guy, but I feel like I've seen him so much.
Who was he in Deadwood?
He was Tom Nuttall.
Doesn't help. Well.
He was in the 11/22/63 Hulu miniseries. He was in 4 episodes of The Blacklist. He was in 5 episodes of Under the Dome, 12 episodes of Alcatraz, the television series from a few years ago, 46 episodes of Saving Grace. He was in 36 episodes of Deadwood. He's got all these credits, and I definitely have seen him in a bunch of stuff. But to me, I thought the character was super annoying. I didn't really appreciate him, even after he calmed down. I mean, the rich guy I didn't like, but I didn't find him as annoying as the singer. I don't know. I guess it was just the way he talked.
Yeah, the singer grew on me. I enjoyed him.
It was over the top, certainly.
Yeah.
The country euphemisms and so on, or aphorisms, and just the kind of Anyway, but I was surprised at how much I think Stephen already said it. How he I started to come around on them. Like toward the end, they did like a swap between the two characters as far as the annoyance. Suddenly, the rich guy was just being way too much, and the other guy was relaxed. So,
I thought it was the commentary on musicians and drugs, and he must not have liked living, and now he's wants to do it again. Was extremely heavy-handed. More of that. Just say no.
Yep, I wrote that exact thing. I was like, another just say no message, really? Come on.
And the other note I have about that character is when he says,
I'm surprised they dropped it.
Surprised they dropped that story, the plot point.
Well, yeah, the just say no aspect. I'm surprised they didn't hammer that in, but he seemed actually pretty well adjusted, all things considered.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of drug users are. So.
Yeah.
Or well, it did seem like he was trying to hit the doctor up for some drugs or something.
Yes, he definitely was.
At one point, but yeah.
She said no. Yeah. I liked her attitude of, just no. No, we're not going to discuss this. I know what you want. It's over. But my favorite line of his, I think, was when he told Data they were going to get a couple of low-mileage pit wolfies or whatever. And Riker acted all confused. I'm like, Riker knows what that means. Come on. Jumping back to the beginning, when they were in the ship with the frozen bodies, normally we can go into something like that and there's a bunch of dead bodies and a bunch of people frozen, because there were only 3 survivors, a bunch of dead bodies. It's human nature to whisper in those situations, even if you don't need to. Data was yelling.
Yeah, what was
more
that?
than normal.
Why
I guess he was trying to wake up anybody that was still asleep. Like, are they really dead? Come on!
Go back a little further than that, even since you mentioned Riker. He was fairly strange for most of this episode, but at the beginning, especially, just I don't know why they threw that in there to have him be like, "What, that floating thing? That's not our problem. We don't explore things."
Yeah, and I thought Data did a good job of persuading them. Like, when are we going to see something like this again? This is what we're here for, which Picard kind of echoes at the very end of the episode. They kept calling them frozen people, which I thought was like, there's a better way to say this, because all I kept thinking of, and again, it's because it might be because I'm watching The Naked Time just yesterday. Frozen people in Naked Time is very different from frozen people the way they were related. It seems like there's a scientific term for whatever they called it, cryogenics or whatever.
Chironics.
Right.
Cryonics.
Yeah.
Yes, cryonics. But still, I mean, just the corpsicles.
I think it was funny they called cryonics a fad of the late 20th century that lasted into the mid-21st, because it was a fad of the late 20th century, so of course they would have known that. But it died off before the 21st even started, I feel like. Yeah,
I don't know many people that are doing it these days. Actually, I don't know anybody that's done it. But
I've heard Ted Williams, right?
Ted Williams, that's the only one I can really think of. And Walt Disney. Isn't Walt Disney frozen?
Yeah, but that was well before Ted Williams.
That's true.
Disney was such a pioneer.
That would be... So here's my new alternate episode. They find Walt Disney's frozen head and he's super anti-Semitic. What I thought was most unrealistic is that they said television dies off by 2040. I don't see that happening.
No.
Unless podcasts take over as the dominant form of entertainment.
No, at first I thought he was referencing baseball or sports, and I was like, that might happen. Or
baseball dies off in the 21st century, according to Star Trek history.
That's very possible as well. He referenced the Braves, and I had to go back and look, because he was like, got to see if they're screwing it up still. Because the Braves became a powerhouse, but at this time in '88 they were lovable losers, but everyone knew them because they were on Superstation WTBS. But I had to go check and look, because I was like, were they a good team by then? They were not. They were not good. They finished in 5th place that year, 69-92. But by 91-92 they were making the World Series. So there you go. A little bit of sports on the spot.
As Keith and I fall into silence.
I'm sorry. About the television thing, I don't believe that they wouldn't have some form of entertainment programming, but probably television wouldn't survive in the form that we would know it now. I mean, even as it is, I mean, you're Jimmy, you've moved completely online as far as content. I mean, technically speaking, you've cut the cord, so to speak. So
yeah, I have an antenna, but I cut cable a couple years ago.
So I mean, to that extent, maybe television doesn't exist.
Well, the holodeck didn't come about until, what, like 70 years before this?
That's
So
what I
I
was
feel
gonna
like
say.
there's, what filled the gap between television and the holodeck? There had to be something.
Virtual reality? But
I mean, the holodeck's
Yeah,
the
I mean,
ultimate virtual reality.
Yeah.
And World War III wiped out everything, so you'd think television would have had a comeback. Just like records have had a comeback and all these other forms of entertainment.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. But, they spent a lot of the episode talking about how enlightened they are in the 24th century. So maybe that's kind of like, well, we're much more erudite than you troglodytes back then. Television went away very soon.
Yeah. I mean, we have people today who say things like that, of course.
Yes.
No, I don't actually watch TV, but yeah. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the people that say that, I mean, I know they say it with, usually they say it with some air of superiority, and I just want to be like, the best writers are on television today, so you're dumb. Shut up.
I mostly watch
the actors. I don't know.
I mean, the acting overall, if you're not a good actor, you don't make it on much beyond basic cable programming at these days. I mean, most new shows that premiere have a really good cast, and if it sucks, it's because of bad directing or bad editing or whatever.
A lot of my bad jokes are going to get completely lost for the timing, I think, because of the delay. But I was just saying that usually the best writers are on TV, and I would think that the best actors would be on TV instead of the writers. Whatever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, see, there's a delay. Yeah. It's so weird when I say something and then I have to wait for like 3 seconds to see if you actually got it. It's like suddenly you start laughing. It's like, oh, they did hear.
I think you're the only one on the delay. I feel like I'm meeting Steven in real time here.
Yeah. I thought, she says this twice. They asked Troy, like, give me information on the Romulans. She's like, it's very limited. And I'm like, wait a minute. Did no one study the battle from the Balance of Terror? I mean, I know it's been a long time, but I felt like in TOS they knew something about the Romulans. And
Not a lot, though, because they hadn't even actually seen them. I guess this is the rest of that. They say they're fascinated with humans, and that's fine. But they say they don't initiate. But in Balance of Terror, they destroyed 2 outposts in that, too. So how is that not initiating? Well, in this one, they didn't initiate. They didn't destroy outposts. It was somebody else that we never found out.
Right.
Again, they didn't have enough time to do the plot.
You're right. I mean, the more you look at that, the weaker it gets. It's like, oh, the Romulans are back. But not really. They didn't destroy anything.
It was more just set. I felt like it was more just set up for we're going to get more Romulan stories, but we won't right away.
Which I'm all for still. But
the lack of information, if you think about it, if somebody asked us what we knew about, I don't know, some conflict that happened 50 years ago that I can't even think of because of my history. I don't, obviously, like the Korean War or something like that, or Vietnam. I mean, certainly they're not so ancient. I mean, if there were actually alien races that happened, 50 years ago, you asked somebody what we knew offhand, we'd probably consult a book or something.
Yeah, we remember the Romulans, but better than they do, I guess.
Well, and them saying, Troy saying, as Troy Rom-splains to us, her saying, we don't know much, that is a relative term as well, because maybe they don't know much as compared to everything they know about the Klingons. Maybe they actually know. I mean, clearly they know about Kirk's encounters with the Romulans, but it sounds like it's been a while. So maybe they know relatively little, but yeah, compared to the races we're more familiar with. I don't know. I didn't bump on that. I thought that made sense that they're still mysterious because Kirk was the first one that actually saw them. And if they've still kept their distance and only had a handful of encounters between now and then, they're still mostly mysterious.
I guess it goes more to the 3 of us know more about the Romulans than the next generation Enterprise crew does.
And see, I don't think that's true. I think it just the way we took a line or something. But I mean, they were able to tell us. I mean, clearly Spock or whoever reported the schism with the Vulcans and everything because that was a surprise to Kirk. But Troy mentions that in her Rom-splaining.
That's true.
Of course, we would know more because we're like outside of time. We're the Watcher characters, so we actually have access to. We're traveling, bouncing around in time. We know what's going to happen in the future, so forth. So metaphorically, of course, not literally.
Sure.
I know all.
So to go back to I keep calling them time travelers, but they're not. They're just frozen people. So Claire wakes up, the blonde, and
we're all time travelers.
And she sees Worf,
Yes.
and she faints.
Yeah,
I just,
with the cheesy music and
Yep, that was one of my notes.
It was
so
totally
lame.
TOS music.
Yep.
Colleen's comment was racist.
I mean, obviously, she's never seen an alien before based on when she was frozen. But, yeah.
Well, and hers makes sense because she says, I didn't know I was going to be frozen. The other two guys froze themselves. She was I guess there was no consent. She was frozen without consent.
And they must have been frozen, like, within hours or minutes of their death, because how else could Dr. Crusher bring them back?
That's a good point, too.
Oh, that reminds me, yeah, the whole way that they kept expressing that. So it was also very strange for just they made some weird behavioral things for both Picard and Riker for the purpose of just adding those little bits of tension. So Picard comes in, he's criticizing Data for deciding to have done that. Like, why would you bring these things? They were dead. You should have known they were dead. Okay, well they're alive now. He says, like within the same breath. So I don't know. That was just a very strange way to put it.
Yeah, if they were so recently died they could still be saved, then were they dead?
Right.
And why was Picard objecting? I agree with you, Keith. I wrote that down too. It felt very weird. And it also felt weird that no one told Picard about the people. He was like, what people? I didn't give authorization. I don't know anything about people. You'd think that would get the captain's attention. I mean, I guess his attention was occupied by the Romulans, and maybe Riker was going to tell him, and then Picard started him about the Romulans, and Riker's like, okay, I'll give him a minute, not the time. But I don't know, it just felt really bizarre that the captain didn't know what was going on the show.
That seemed pretty frivolous by comparison.
Yeah.
Still, it's just strange that they would make such a weird semantical observation. Like, what would the difference really be if you looked at someone in that state to see if they were just sleeping or dead? In that, I don't know, cryonically preserved. But I don't know, that's probably a question for when we have a doctor join the panel instead of just a lawyer.
Or we could ask the writer of this episode, Maurice Hurley, who was a producer on Next Gen and was there for quite a while. In fact, took a big leadership role in the second season before leaving the show. So, and is best known for work on Star Trek. Maurice has a story credit for this one. Also, Maurice is credited with writing 12 episodes of The Next Generation, this one being his 6th. He did 6 episodes in season 1. He wrote Hiding Q, which he changed his name and used a pen name on. I don't blame him. He did Data Lore. He did 11001001, and he did Heart of Glory and the Arsenal of Freedom. I don't know. We're not to the ranking yet, but I kind of feel like this was his best one thus far.
It had some great moments.
He also wrote the season 2 opening and the Q episode of season 2, along with several more season 2 episodes. So we'll talk more about that later.
Something I did appreciate in the episode was they asked him, the 3 unfrozen people asked Data, what year are we? And he says, well, by your calendar, 2364. Yes! Points for Data for recognizing by the Earth calendar. By their Vulcan calendar, I don't know, 5966, I don't know.
The Jewish calendar.
Definitely by the Jewish calendar, it's much later, yeah. That might be kind of close.
Is Worf just fully the security chief now? Because it sure felt like that.
I think so.
So here's another strange note. Why did Riker use the pad on the replicator to talk to Picard instead of his comm badge, other than so that the rich guy could then use the pad on the replicator to talk to Picard? That felt super forced just to give that guy a way to talk to Picard.
Yeah, I hated all of that. Well, the way I solved it, that makes more sense. I just figured he had read the ship manual, so he knew everything he needed to know.
Nah, Riker did it right in front of him. That's how.
Yeah, you're right.
That goes to the annoying factor of the character. It's hard for me to believe that he would be lack that much common sense as far as the understanding that he's on a military vessel and just barreling around and, oh, you're in the middle of a conflict. I would be just terrified. Like, Anyway.
So my argument against that, Keith, and this may be just me, whatever.
I think I know what you're going to say.
They wanted us to understand that he thought it was a cruise ship. And if you think about how sparse military vessels are in our time versus the Enterprise D looks super homey and very cruise shippy, like it's nicely decorated. It's very plush. Oh. So I think he was looking at it as, even if it's military, this is more of a pleasure cruise and not a serious mission based on his surroundings and his context.
That's not
bad. I mean, that's yeah. I mean,
did you see the original Enterprise model in the lounge where the guests were hanging out?
No.
There was some great shots of it behind Claire's head. It was in like pewter, and it was a big model of the Enterprise from the original series. There was also one of the Enterprise D, but of course they're on the Enterprise D, so that's not as exciting.
It's still kind of exciting.
The rest of my notes have to do with the bridge and the Romulan encounter. Does anybody else have other notes before that?
I think I do. Just a couple. Picard tells Deanna, get those people under control. Mm-hmm. First of all, what do you mean those people? Second of all, and I think Claire actually picks up on it because I wrote down he means get those kids under control, and which I just thought that makes sense. The man saying that to the women, do something with our kids, and then I think Claire actually references, were you sent in here to get us under control? Maybe it's her, maybe it's one of the guys, but anyway. And that line I found amusing and whatever, sexist maybe too.
No, it was Claire, but the funny thing about that is that she was the only one in the room at that point. So it's more like get that woman under control.
That makes it easy.
When you said those people, they other guys have just wandered off by that point.
They're talking about going to the neutral zone, and I think it's the Southern guy who says, "Why does that make me nervous?" And Data says, "I don't know," which was very funny.
I've got Warp 8. They did it again at the beginning of the episode. But another Warp 8. I liked the joke they did with Data pointing out her occupation was homemaking. Meant construction.
Yeah, I liked that too.
And, I noticed that Data's makeup was faded around his neck for most of the episode. I think the high def thing or something that was more noticeable.
I think you're right.
I also noted the country music riff for the vitamin joke for the martini. Yeah.
Oh, those Duke boys, they got themselves in a mess of trouble. That's all I could hear. That's all I could hear. It's like, really? Is this where we're starting? But I thought it got better.
And,
I'm shocked he said it was the best martini ever tasted when everybody always complains the replicator food doesn't taste authentic.
Right.
Well.
But maybe the drug improved his taste buds.
I would put it this way. If you didn't have a vodka drink for 400 years, the first one I had afterwards would be the best one I ever had.
Amen to that.
I do. So I also thought of Adamant when he was saying the thing, you don't drink alcohol, you don't watch TV. What do you do?
What do you do?
He said it in a different order, but yeah. And next thing I had was just the whole thing about the conference scene when they're discussing options. So we're probably caught up. No, actually, this is before they got to the bridge, isn't it? Or rather, before they actually saw them on the screen. I liked the conference scene because I think it was probably one of my favorite of those tactical discussions they've had so far in the series, although it might be recency bias, of course. Sure. I liked the Riker and Worf positions of we should just take the opportunity while we can. Data kind of being the angel on the shoulder, Picard evoking that wise leader sort of. I can't even think of like a good adjective for it, but you know what I'm saying. Just the idea of it being a sage and patient leader, and seeming to have other information. Well, actually, because before Deanna had pulled him aside, or he pulled Deanna aside, and she told him about the Romulan MO of trying to bait them into initiating some sort of conflict first. So.
Yeah, that was the bridge scene.
That they didn't.
Say that was the bridge scene, so we're caught up now to that last exchange. Yeah, the Riker and Worf wanting to shoot first bothered me. It really, I mean, they're calm, cool Starfleet officers. Although Worf's backstory gave it a little bit more credence of, yeah, the Romulans killed my parents. Get that.
They were so forceful. It felt very much like they were like, we want to show you that Picard's a thinker. And he said earlier, I want to be with our minds or whatever, not with our phasers. And I'm poorly paraphrasing.
Did anybody else bump on when Riker raised shields without waiting for Picard's permission?
I didn't catch that. But as I was saying, that kind of goes to what I observed at the beginning, which is that Riker was just written very strangely for this episode. He was just kind of all over the place, just really rash in a way that didn't seem characteristic so far.
Pretending he didn't know about sex stuff. You're right. That's off. Then we get the Romulans. They come on the screen, and the first officer... First of all, we get a nice full shot of the bridge, which is more than we usually get, I thought. Then we had... the first officer was played by Anthony James, best known for the movie Unforgiven from 1992, as well as Naked Gun 2.5.
Yeah. He always played he played a baddie quite a bit. On Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, which I watched every episode in the 70s, he played actually an interesting character that seemed like a bad guy, but turned out he was more of a tragic tale. And I think it had some kind of nuclear war radiation kind of a thing. You know, he'd been damaged by war and everything, and it had changed him and all this stuff. And he was an interesting character, and his radiation gave him powers, but it also he'd seen a lot, man, or whatever. That's the part that sticks the most in me. But I know he showed up. I remember him from the Naked Gun movie, and I think later in his career he played more comedic spins on that bad guy character. I liked seeing him here, but as you said at the beginning, we don't get much from the Romulans here at the end. I like to have a little more light in their bridge than they did back in the days. I mean, actually, I don't. I like their dark bridge, but I like that we get to see more of the bridge. I do like that.
Yeah, and the hallway behind it.
Yeah.
So I mentioned the first officer, but more exciting was Mark Alamo right there as the captain of the Romulans. This is his second episode of The Next Generation. He played a very minor character in the episode Lonely Among Us. We had the cat and the lizard people that wanted to kill each other.
Oh, yeah.
He also will be in 2 more episodes of The Next Generation over the next few years. He'll play a Cardassian later, and then somebody in a time travel episode. However, what he is most famous for to me, it's his third most famous at IMDb because he's most famous for Total Recall and Tango and Cash. But what he is most famous for me is he is the main antagonist of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. He plays the Cardassian Gul Dukat in 35 episodes over 7 seasons. So I hope you like the Romulan captain because he is a huge presence in Deep Space Nine. As a Cardassian.
I was going to say, I really loved his performance as a Romulan in this episode. I remember really liking him for very much the same sort of reasons, although there's even a different kind of sleazier kind of feel about them, but I appreciate his nuance in this.
When he was sitting with his fingers like steepled, I was like, that's a total Gul Dukat move. Like, that is, it felt very Gul Dukat to me, the way he played that Romulan. But Gul Dukat is duplicitous. He is somewhat mysterious and secretive and manipulative. So that is kind of Romulan-esque. But yeah, we'll get tons and tons of Mark Alamo. Very excited about that. I love him. I love Gul Dukat. Great to see him here as a Romulan. Kind of like Mark Leonard playing the Romulan before he was that iconic Sarek. I guess if you play a Romulan captain in Star Trek, expect a bigger role in your future.
On that note, Colleen, when she saw them, said, they look like Vulcans. So I was like, well.
That is an accurate statement.
Yep, they're related. They're offshoot.
I felt like the whole point of that scene with them was just for them to say, we're back. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay. Well, we talked about how the Next Gen in its first season very much wanted to avoid the aliens from the original series. Yeah. I mean, they had Worf as a Klingon, but they wanted to be their own thing, and they were trying to set the Ferengi up as the main aliens. And so for them, and I'm trying to see it from this perspective, even though the episode was so little about the Romulans, just to drop the Romulans in at the end would have probably been a big shock moment in the 80s. After years of no Star Trek, and we finally get this iconic alien race back. So I guess from that perspective, it's okay to just use them a little, even though now when we've had so many hours of Romulan stories, we're just like, what was the point?
Now I just have Eminem, Guess Who's Back, running through my head.
They ended the episode I felt like this was a very end of the first season thing to do, reminding us that their mission is to go forward. And then Picard says, and it's just begun. And it was very much to me like yep, we're here, baby. We're Star Trek now, and we're going to do our thing. And this is what we do.
I laughed at that, and Colleen was like, why was that funny? And I was just like, it was very on the nose. But at the same time, I appreciated it, and I liked it. It made sense. And from not only what Picard was saying, but from a meta sense, it made sense too.
Yes. The only way they could have done it better is just gone like total Rick and Morty and goes and saying, "Oh, that's it for season 1."
Or Boston Legal.
Folks.
Didn't I used to see you every Sunday evening, and now we're on Tuesdays?
Yeah.
I thought there was another meta moment there too, where the Southern guy tells Data he thought he'd be a pretty good sideman, and Data's like, "That's a very interesting proposition," which I think is interesting because Data is a sideman.
He is.
I mean, in this universe, meta or otherwise, in this universe, he's a sideman. So I thought that was another cool little like, hey, and I think calling it an interesting proposition is interesting too because he is a very interesting character. I think he more or less wins season 1, right? I mean, I know we're not to that point yet, but I think
that's our next episode. Hold it for just a minute. We'll talk about it.
All right, I'm getting ahead of myself.
But you're right. He is a sideman through a lot of season 1. He's Picard's sideman in the Dixon Hill adventure. But I think in season 2, we're going to see him really step more to the forefront of stories. I definitely feel like for most of the rest of Star Trek, he is one of the more central figures. I mean, when he does Sherlock Holmes, he's Sherlock Holmes and Geordi's Watson, you know? So I think we're going to get... And there's a Sherlock Holmes episode with Data early in season 2. So I think we're going to get to that stuff pretty soon. But yeah, I would love to see I don't know if I'd love to see a spinoff with him following the musician around, but...
I thought that's what Stephen was getting at first, like the idea of them teasing a spinoff.
I have just one fashion note.
Oh, yeah.
What do we think of the jumpsuits that guests get for being on the Enterprise?
The original series, very basic.
They did nothing for Claire. I will definitely say that. Yes, they were very drab, very okay.
I mean, I was kind of impressed that they made a choice where they were functional. They seemed to be something that you expect to be like a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. I mean, they seemed fitted enough, but also seemed like they would be appropriately adjustable to make sure that they fit, rather than just being some weird clingy number or something. But
sure.
Yeah, the only other thing that I had was related to what Stephen was saying before at the beginning of the episode, which is that the unfrozen people, or the time travelers, did end up being a lot less annoying by the end. And I think a lot of that was due to Picard's interaction with them. Especially, I even noted there that he felt like one of my favorite captains in this episode, if not the. But the writing was very much stilted to push him that way. You had Riker acting very strangely. Picard got to sit back and seem like the wisest leader ever, somehow being patient and making the right call, and then also warming up to the unfrozen people just at the right times to bring something out of them, especially during the denouement. Like, what do we do now? You know, that kind of thing. Leading them by the hand out the door. So other than that, it was just the ending was a little confusing for me. I had to stop and think about it as far as the Romulan part where they just said, "We're back. Bye. Credits," or something. And it was like, oh, okay, I guess we're done with that storyline. I thought they were leading up to some kind of here's a clue we found, or we think we know who this is, or something.
I thought Claire's storyline was interesting, not only because I thought she acted the most like a normal person I think would. The whole idea of when she's talking about...
Except for the fainting.
Right, yeah, that I didn't care for. She's crying and it's like, I don't know, I can't stop crying. I thought it made sense because she's like, everyone I know is dead. It was the Superman thing where everyone well, in her instance, she hasn't watched people repeatedly die, but she's going to go back and see that everyone she knows is dead. And she says that, I think. So I thought that was her arc was, I thought, the most interesting. And the fact that she's going to, try and remake contact, I think that's probably the most interesting of those. I think the rich guy ends up, I guess I would watch all three of them. I think the rich guy ends up, maybe it's because I didn't like him, he ends up dead. But anyway, I thought hers was by far the most interesting. And I was surprised again that I was that taken in, but I thought that arc made a lot of sense and it was very human. and very 20th century and 24th century, I guess, too. So that's my last note.
Nice. Let's get to rankings. A scale of
Well,
1 to
actually,
10.
I have a question for both.
Go ahead.
Sure.
So I'm just trying to understand what exactly the Romulan was talking about at the end there. Right before he said, we're back, he said something to the effect of, you guys aren't actually welcome here. Or what did you think was going on? I feel like we've been gone for too long. Now I'm here to tell you we're back. As if, what is that even supposed to mean? Are they saying that area of the neutral zone or something shouldn't have been off limits, or the treaty didn't work?
The neutral zone. They were on the Starfleet side. I just thought it was more of a meta thing, honestly.
Huh. Okay.
I'm with you, though, Keith. I did feel weird. It was weird the way they were talking. Like, what are they talking about? Nothing's changed. But I guess Romulans are always like, we take what we want kind of a thing.
It seems sort of like he was trying to be cool and say something to the effect of, you're only here because we let you be here or something, or the treaty was just like an illusion. We were just off doing other stuff that was more important. I think that's what he said. That's what was confusing me at first.
He did say they were doing stuff that was more important. I don't think we ever find out what that is, unfortunately.
Man.
Building schools. They were building schools. And
they had coronavirus. They were all isolated. Oh, something we're missing we should talk about. What do you think of the design of the new Romulan ship for TNG?
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, first glance I didn't, and then it grew on me very quickly. I love the Romulan bird of prey. I hated it when they had to drive Klingon ships. I mean, I guess I like the plot device, the idea that they got a hold of some Klingon ships.
Even though it was really just the model was damaged and they can't use it again.
Yeah, the guy just didn't thank her. And I appreciate that story too. But I love the Romulan bird of prey. So I wanted to see that. This is pure nostalgia. I wanted to see the Romulan bird of prey. But 100 years later, but I ended up liking it. Yeah, at first I'm like, what is going on here? What kind of cartoon ship is this? But then by the end, I changed my mind. I liked it.
So I watched a ton of Next Gen before I saw any original series episodes, and that was the Romulan ship to me. And when I first saw the original series ship with the bird drawn on the bottom, I'm like, what the hell is this? It looks like instead of designing a cool ship, they just designed a very basic ship and drew a bird on it. And I know importantly you can put a bird on it, but yeah, I don't know. It felt so dumb to me. The original Bird of Prey.
Sure.
I love this one.
I do like it. I do like it.
Good, because you're going to see a lot more of them.
Someday.
Ranking, scale of 1 to 10, how annoying was Wesley?
What's the lowest? Because we didn't see him again.
Yeah, we just don't rank him when we don't see him.
Yeah.
It's worth noting that he was absent for 5 of the last 7 episodes. And
was he
the last 3 episodes of the season. I don't know, maybe they ran out of how many hours they could film with the child actor that season.
Maybe.
Or I don't know. It's weird because Dr. Crusher won't return for season 2, but Wesley will. So it's very bizarre that they left him out of this much at the end of the season, in my opinion. I've already filled out who all 3 of us think are our annoying characters for the episode. Let's see if I'm right. Steven, who's your annoyance?
Ralph, I hated that guy.
That's what I put for you, Keith.
Yep.
Ralph was the rich guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's, of course, as I said, by the end, but still, just even the idea of, I demand, blah, blah, blah. I'm on a ship, military stupid, no.
So I was right on both counts. I'm sorry, I have to go with Sonny. I thought Sonny was more annoying, personally.
I think that's valid. I mean, that would probably be my runner-up. I mean, he didn't cry or anything, but that was just a little much.
So our Star Trek crushes... Keith, sorry, not Keith. Steven, are you crushing on Claire?
I thought I would more. I really liked her, though. I appreciate her, but who am I with?
Are you sticking with Gabrielle from We'll Always Have Paris?
Yeah.
Me too. Keith, are you still with Janice from We'll Always Have Paris, or you want to go with Claire, or maybe you want Sunny? I don't know.
As I said, the fainting and crying didn't really do much for me, so no.
You're going to stick where you are.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm tempted to go with Mark Alamo's character of Commander T-Bach, but I'm going to stay with Gabrielle as well. Ranking the episode, I kind of feel like we should be going towards the top here.
It was pretty good. Like a 10.
You think it's like number 10 on the rankings-ish?
Yeah, I'm mostly joking. I have no idea.
Out of 25, that sounds like not a bad place to start.
around number 10?
Sure.
Well, I can tell you number 9 is Encounter at Farpoint, and I think we want to go above that.
Yeah.
Okay, so working our way up.
Yes.
Number 8 was Symbiosis. I like this one a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can go with that.
Skin of Evil is above that.
Oof.
Is that the oil slick?
Yep.
Yeah. I go above that.
Yep, me too.
The literal skin of evil.
And then I'm just going to keep these two paired, but we have the 2 Ferengi episodes, The Last Outpost and The Battle.
I think the Romulan encounter kind of balances out the aspect of both those Ferengi things and go above that, maybe.
I would go above the Ferengi as well.
All right.
Next up, we're up to number 4. I told you we should start doing that. Conspiracy. That was a really good episode.
Yeah. I think I'd stop it there.
I think too much was going on in Conspiracy. Yeah.
So Steven wants it below. Keith, are you asking for below or above?
Below.
Okay. I'll put it below. I may have got a spot or 2, but I don't know. Conspiracy was really good. So, yeah, let's put it at number 5 for the season. And then next week, we will be back to do our season wrap-up, where we discuss Season 1 in general, what some of our overall picks were, and, just finish this up before we take our break between seasons.
We'll revisit all of this.
Until then, live long.
And we're back.
We will be next week. Tune in.
It's All Been Done presents
Who's Got the Time?